Don't give away your writing credits. So why am I talking about this? Well, someone that I know is in a similar situation to the one I'm going to tell you about now. I'm not going to give you details of theirs. I'm just going to give you a generic scenario. They wrote a song, they recorded a song, and they didn't have a record deal, so they decided that what they were going to do was self-publish the song. Now, that was also on an interesting tale, but that's for another video. The song went nowhere. Okay, so didn't go anywhere, didn't get very many views, listens, whatever, and they just forgot about it. And then someone got in touch with them and said they'd like to use the song in an upcoming piece of work that they were doing, but they wanted the song tweaked, okay, to suit the scenario that they were working towards. So a few changes were made, and the song was re-recorded, and the person that asked for the re-recording asked to get writing credits. And basically what happens is a couple of years go by, the song then gets incorporated into the piece of work. The song is recorded by another artist, so the actual thing you hear on this piece of work is not by the artist who wrote it, it's actually by another artist. And that's the version that's included in the publication. And of course you're sitting there saying, well, there's nothing wrong with this. It happens all the time, and it does. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Now, to understand why this is important, just let me get comfortable. You need to have a sort of basic understanding of how music royalties are calculated. And it's not the most straightforward thing in the world, I have to be honest. Just let me get rid of that. I've got my script down here. A song is basically treated in law as an asset. That's how copyright all works. The legal definition is a song becomes an asset of somebody called the owner. And the owner is generally the person that wrote that song, and that's their asset. Hence the reason why lots of pop stars now are selling off their back catalogue. They're selling off their assets. This is known as the composition copyright. The writing the song is known as the composition copyright. And this generates what we call publishing rights. Okay, I'm trying to keep this really simple because so people don't jump into me and say, well, I'm just trying to keep this at a really simple level. When the song is recorded, it gains a second set of rights, known as the sound recording copyright, or it generates what we call recording rights. Okay, so therefore you've got a song can have two sets of rights. One is the rights for the person who wrote the song. One is the rights for the person who recorded the song. And in many instances they may be the same person, but in many instances they're not. Okay, just bear this in mind. So if you write a song and another artist records that song, you will get the publishing element of the rights to that song, whereas the person who recorded it will get the recording rights to that song. So effectively the song gets split in two in terms of who gets revenue from that song being played, purchased, incorporated in other media sources, etc. Now again, on the surface this all kind of seems fairly self-explanatory, and at a very high level it is very simple. It gets much more complicated the deeper you get into this subject, but as I said, I'm not trying to get into the whys and wherefores of recording rights and publishing rights. That's not what this video is intended to do. It's just intended to highlight why you shouldn't give away your writing credits. So back to my example, the original artist did not record the song. The recording rights to revenue generated from the song goes to the artist that recorded the song that was included in the publication. Okay, so the artist that wrote the song doesn't get any revenue from that revenue source. The artist that wrote the song gets obviously the publishing rights, which is because you wrote the song, you're entitled to that piece of the revenue. However, in this case, because the artist agreed to dual writing credits, what they found was they didn't get all of those publishing credits. They got a proportion of those publishing credits based on the agreement and the split of the publishing rights. And the other chunk of money from the publishing rights went to the person who was named, or the company that was named, as having those particular publishing rights. This is why, if you wrote it, don't give it away, because all of a sudden your income is being diluted by somebody else who's managed to get themselves publishing credit. This is where we talk about it's your pie. What do I mean by it's your pie? Well, if you're recording and writing the song, then you're going to get 100% of the whole pie. If you're just writing the song and somebody else is recording the song, you're only going to get a percentage of the pie. And let's say it's 50-50 split, and I'm not going to get into that. But so you're only going to get 50% of the pie maximum. Remember, in the recording industry, everyone wants a slice of your pie. Why? Because it's recurring revenue. Every time that song is played, every time that song is recorded, if you've got publishing rights, you get a slice of the pie. But everybody else wants a slice of your pie because it's easy money potentially. You know, you're on the gravy train, you're on the bandwagon. Why would they not ask you, or why would they not try and get easy money? And this is kind of the big thing from this, that once you start giving away your publishing credit, your slice of the pie starts to diminish and diminish and diminish. And the more people who get writing credits against a particular song, the less your share of the pie is going to be. This is why some pop artists have made more money writing songs for other artists than they have for writing songs for themselves. This is on the basis that if you write the songs for well-established artists and they record that song and that song becomes a popular song, every time that song is paid, every time that song is purchased or streamed or whatever it happens to be, you get a slice of the pie. And remember, using the example of a 50-50 split between publishing rights and recording rights, you get 50% of something, which if you recorded it yourself is better than 100% of nothing, if you follow my drift. The process of giving other people writing credits on something that you have written dilutes your earnings. What do I mean by that? Well, your 50% becomes less than 50% for argument's sake. So for example, if you give another person writing credits and you give them equal writing credits, your 50% just became 25%. If you give 5 people equal writing credits on the song that you've written, all of a sudden your writing credit becomes 10%. This is what I mean by dilution of earnings. What I've seen with up-and-coming artists is people suggesting changes to a song and then for relatively little effort getting themselves a writing credit. Effectively, they're diluting your earnings. Then that song takes off, and before you know it, a big chunk of the revenue for that song is bypassing you and going to all these other people that may have just had inputs into single lines of the song, or maybe a piece of phrasing in terms of the melody. And you've given them writing credits, and all of a sudden they're getting some of your income for what was, by and large, your hard effort and they just came along and gave you sort of some polishing or some notes, and they're getting full writing credits for it. This is where the problem is. If somebody asks you for a writing credit, you have to ask yourself, did they earn it? If you go back and look at things like the Beatles, for argument's sake, John Lennon and Paul McCartney pretty much wrote most of the Beatles songs. Okay, so most of the Beatles songs are Lennon and McCartney songs. Therefore, every time those songs were played, bought, etc., Lennon and McCartney got money. Now, they moved all the publishing rights into Apple and then into Northern Songs, and then sold Northern Songs, and it all became a bit of a fiasco. If you go and look at some other bands, let's take Genesis. Obviously, I'm a great Genesis fan. Now, in the early days, what Genesis used to do was whoever wrote the song got the writing credit for it. So if you look down an album, you would see Banks, Rutherford, Gabriel, whatever, Collins, whatever it happened to be. Now, what they decided to do from a certain point in time, and I think it was around about, it wasn't Then There Were Three, it might have been the album after Then There Were Three, they decided that all three members of the band got equal writing credits. Stopped a lot of arguments, but it meant that every time that song was played, all three of them, whoever played it, got a third of the share of the writing credits. This is how many of these established artists can now, after being in the music industry for 20, 30, 40 years, can now turn around and sell off their back catalogue. They can basically go to somebody, and they tend to be fund managers who they're selling these things off to. They're effectively selling their back catalogue off on the grounds that future revenue will generate an income that then can be used to service something or other. And they just take a one-off big payment for it. And for some of these artists, those payments are in sort of the tens of millions of pounds. Some of the big artists are getting over $100 million for their back catalogues. But their back catalogues wouldn't be worth as much as they are if they had been giving away writing credits all the way through, because all of a sudden that income is diluted, and that's something you don't want to do. So the message is, if you're a young and upcoming artist, be very wary about giving away your writing credits. You don't have any option on recording credits. People can come along and record your song and they pay you a fee for that. Great, right? That's how you earn money. But don't give away the writing credits. And on that note, what I'm going to say is live long and prosper.